Welcome back. All right, so I wanted to take an updated look at the Eastern playoff race before the two games tonight get underway. And in doing so, too, I'm wearing my Friday the 13th jersey, which is a nice jersey made by Geeky Jerseys. So I'll throw the Geeky Jerseys magnet on the board because I always get that question of where'd you get that jersey when I'm wearing one of the entertainment-related ones. And so there you go. And I'm wearing my John Cena hat for full transparency. All right, so looking at the teams that are, is it in danger at this point? We'll see. There's a bunch of games left. There are so many games still left to be played. So it is odd that basically we haven't seen any movement in terms of teams moving into or out of the top 8 spots in the East for a while, but that could change as soon as this weekend. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, 65 games, 32-18-15 record, 79 points. The remaining games, they have 8 at home, where they're 16-9-8. They have 9 away from home, where they're 16-9-7, so virtually the same record on the road as at home. Their upcoming schedule, they're at Utah tomorrow. Utah is a tough team. They have to be ready to play right at the opening whistle. Then they're at Colorado on Monday. Well, we know what Colorado's been doing in the season they've been having. Then they're at Carolina on Wednesday, and Carolina's not an easy one either. And then they come back home to play Winnipeg on Saturday the 21st. So 3 more games on this road trip. They're not easy. However, Money Puck likes the remaining schedule. Has a 71.2% chance that they make the playoffs. The Athletic has them with a lower ranking at 65%. That's still pretty good. Last year at this time, they had 68 points in 64 games. So they've played 1 more game and they've got 11 more points than they had last year on this date. So I thought I'd throw that in there, just to kind of show which teams have made progressions and which ones haven't. Now, the New York Islanders have shown progression, too. They're 37-23-5, 79 points in 65 games, the same as Pittsburgh. They have 12 left at home. They're 17-10-2 at home. They have 5 left away from home, where they're 20-13-3. So if they can play really well at home, they have a really good chance. Now, tonight they're at home against LA. Tomorrow they're at home against Calgary. Those are winnable games for the New York Islanders. Then they're at Toronto on Tuesday. I would say that's a winnable game as well. And then they're at Ottawa on Thursday. So the upcoming schedule is not bad. And in terms of the odds, Money Puck has them at 77.6%. The Athletic has them at 70%. Now that number from Money Puck is the highest number of anybody on the board. And last year at this time, they had 65 points in 64 games. So I wanted to include that too because it does kind of show. No, for Pittsburgh was 64 points in 68 games. That's right. They were below 500. But yeah, so just to give an idea of where teams are at comparatively speaking with where they were at last year, I thought that was something interesting to look at. Detroit, 66 games played, 36-23-7 record, 79 points. So same number of points as the Islanders and Pittsburgh. They have 9 left at home, where they're 18-11-3. They have 7 away from home, where they're 18-12-4. So similar record at home and on the road. Not a huge advantage either way. But tomorrow they're at Dallas, which is not easy, right? Dallas is on a 14-game point streak. Then they come home on Monday to play against Calgary. On Thursday, they're at home against Montreal, which is not an easy game. And then Saturday, the 21st, they're at home against Boston. So not an easy schedule for Detroit, to be certain. But they do have some days off in there, which is important at this time of year. There are some teams that just don't. You have a game, you have 1 day off, then you have a game. And it's just that day off in between is kind of your rest, your practice, and then you're right back at it the next night. So a couple extra days off here and there can help, especially with Detroit not playing fantastic hockey right now. Boston, 65 games, 36-23-6 record. Oh, I should mention with Detroit, before I move on from Detroit, 65.3% chance they make it according to Money Puck, 74% chance according to The Athletic, which is one of the highest numbers on the board. And last year at this time, they had 68 points in 65 games. So they're 11 points ahead with 1 more game played of where they were last year on this date. So that's pretty good. That's not too shabby. Now we move on to Boston. 36-23-6 record, 78 points in 65 games. They have 6 games left at home where they're ridiculously good at 25-9-1. They have 11 games away from home. 11-14-5 is their road record. They have to fix their road record if they're going to make the playoffs. And the Athletic knows it. Money Puck's a little more optimistic. So they're at Washington tomorrow. And then they're at New Jersey on Monday. And then they're at Montreal on Tuesday. So if everything goes well and they win all 3, then they have a 500 record on the road. I don't think they win all three. Montreal, we know, is going to be tough. Montreal-Boston's always a really good matchup. New Jersey's out of it, so that's a game they should win. Washington, we'll see. They've won both games with Washington so far, but we'll see how much fight Washington has left for tomorrow's game. And then after that, they come home, and on Thursday, they're against Winnipeg. 62.3% is their chances, according to Money Puck, of making the playoffs. The Athletic has them at 31%. Last year at this time, they had 68 points in 67 games. So 10 points ahead with 2 less games played, but they do have games on the road, and they have to be better on the road, or this season could see them just miss the playoffs. Columbus is the top team below the playoff line, 65 games, 33-21-11 record, 77 points, so 1 point back of Boston. They have 9 remaining at home, where they're 17-8-7. They have 8 remaining on the road, where they're 16-13-4. Better road record than last year. Last year, that was the big issue that Columbus had, where they couldn't make the playoffs. Now, they're at Philadelphia tomorrow, winnable game, yes. Then they're at home against Carolina on Tuesday. A little more difficult. Then they're at home against the Rangers on Thursday. The Rangers are better on the road than at home. We know this. And then they're at home against Seattle on Saturday the 21st. Seattle has not been playing very well, so that could very well be a win for them. So even if, say, Carolina beats them, they have a good chance for the other 3 games. Columbus is one to keep an eye on. They could very well end up in the playoffs. And the odds know this. They have a 64.3% chance, according to Money Puck, which is higher odds than Boston by 2%, and 77%, according to The Athletic, which is a better chance than they give Pittsburgh, better chance than they give the Islanders, Detroit, or Boston, and then anybody. So, according to The Athletic, this is a playoff team in Columbus. Last year at this time, they had 70 points in 65 games. So they're 7 points ahead of where they were last year. We know last year they barely missed. So there's a good chance that we'll see the Columbus Blue Jackets in the playoffs this year, and I think that would be fantastic. I'd be very happy about that. But don't count out Ottawa. They've played 64 games, so they have 2 games in hand on Detroit, 1 game in hand on Boston. They're 32-23-9, 73 points in those 64 games. And they have 11 more games at home. They're 14-11-5 at home. They have a chance to improve that home record and really, assert themselves. Then they have 7 away from home, where they're 18-12-4. So they're good on the road. They could stand to be a little better at home, having won 14 out of 30 at home. Tomorrow they're at home against Anaheim. That won't be easy. Anaheim's going to probably be pretty ornery after that game against Toronto. Then they're at home against San Jose the next night. Then they go to Washington on Wednesday, before coming back home on Thursday night to play against the New York Islanders. And we know that the New York Islanders are in the thick of all this fight as well. So with Anaheim, San Jose, those are 2 California Western teams. They're both home games, though, and Ottawa needs to show what they can do there. Then the game against Washington on Wednesday. This is a team that they're technically fighting to chase down teams in the East, so they need to win there. And as I said, the Islanders are already in the fight. Now, Money Puck has them at a 45.1% chance of making the playoffs. Athletic has them at 48%. Last year at this time, they had 75 points in 65 games. So they've played 1 fewer game, and they've got 2 fewer points than they did last year at this time. So very similar. Very, very similar. Philadelphia. Philadelphia's played 65 games, a record of 31-23-11. Now we're into the teams that have very little chance of making it. So on this side, you have up until Ottawa, more than a 50% chance. And now we get into the ones that very likely don't make it. But for Philadelphia, they're showing some fight. Now, they've got 8 games left at home, where they're 15-11-7. They've got 9 games left on the road, where they're 16-12-4. They're at home against Columbus tomorrow. So that's a huge game for Columbus and Philadelphia, right? This is that 4-point swing that they always talk about. And I'm sure you'll hear it multiple times during that broadcast, where Philadelphia, if they can get that win, they pull within 2 points of Columbus, but they also could pull Columbus further behind the teams in front of them in the playoff chase. So they've got that, and then they're at Anaheim on Wednesday, they're at LA on Thursday, and they're at San Jose on Saturday the 21st. So West Coast swing for Philadelphia after tomorrow's game. And as I said, on the road, they're not bad. The odds, though, not great. 7.1% chance according to Money Puck, 9% chance according to The Athletic. And last year at this time, they had 64 points in 67 games. It is interesting. They do have 9 more points in 2 fewer games this year. And it is interesting that they have a 9% chance of making it. They've only played one more game than has the Ottawa Senators, but just the upcoming schedule must be that much more difficult for Philadelphia than it is for Ottawa. Washington, 67 games played. So, as I keep mentioning with Washington, and apologies if it's a broken record, but they have played more games than everybody else. 33, 27, and 7 record, 73 points. They've got 7 games left at home where they're 20, 11, and 3. Very good home record. Away from home, 8 games, and they're 13, 16, and 4 on the road. So much like Boston, their road record could end up costing them a playoff spot. They're at home against Boston tomorrow, so that's a good chance for them since Boston's not very good on the road. And then they're at home against Ottawa on Wednesday. They're at home against New Jersey on Friday the 20th. And then on Sunday the 22nd, they're at home against Colorado. So we know how tough Colorado's going to be. And for Washington, they need to start stringing together some wins, and then they're going to need some help. They're going to need some teams ahead of them to be losing. The one thing that does get tricky at this time of year is a lot of these teams end up playing against each other. Well, somebody's going to get points, and then if they go to overtime, both teams get points, and that's where it makes it more difficult to catch up. The Athletic has Washington at a 20% chance of making the playoffs, whereas Money Puck has them at 11.5%. It is interesting they've played 2 more games than have the Flyers, and yet they've got better odds from both of these publications than one would imagine for considering Philadelphia has played 2 fewer games and all that. Now, last year at this time, Washington had 94 points in 66 games played. So, yeah, they definitely had that record last year. They do not have that record this year, and just showing one year does not roll over to the next. Then we get to Florida. I'm going to round this out with Florida. They're within 10 points of a playoff spot, so why not? 65 games, 33, 29, and 9 record, 69 points. They have 6 games left at home, where they're 18, 14, and 3. And what hurts them, I think, is the fact they have 11 games left on the road, where they're 15 and 15. At home, they have that energy from the crowd. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They definitely seem to be getting that energy. And Tkachuk has started to round into form as well. But there's not enough games left, I don't think, for them to make it. And I'm saying I don't think because while they're 9 points back, they got to jump past 5 teams to get in. I mean, they're the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions, so it's possible, right? Now, they are headed out west. They're going to play at Seattle on Sunday, at Vancouver on Tuesday, at Edmonton on Thursday, and then they're at Calgary a week from tonight, Friday the 20th. So when you look at that road trip, how scary is that road trip? Vancouver's in a rebuild. Seattle, they've been falling. Calgary, they're in a rebuild. And Edmonton's 4-6 in their last 10. Could I see Florida winning all 4 games on that road trip? I could. I actually could. So we'll see. Now, the playoff odds are going to be low because they're 9 points back of a playoff spot. Money Puck has them at 3.7%. The Athletics a little more bullish on them at 11%. And last year at this time, they'd played 66 games and they had 85 points. So, drop off of 16 points for them. And yeah, Florida and Washington, I think, are the 2 biggest drops in the East. I'm pretty sure those are the 2 biggest drops in the East in terms of where their points are now compared to last season. But it's been an interesting year so far. I don't know how set things are necessarily in the East. I guess my question for people watching this is a simple one. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make my guess first. Boston absolutely could fall out of the playoffs. Unless they can fix themselves on the road, they could fall. And I'm not, even as a Bruins fan, I wouldn't be overly upset if they missed the playoffs because I knew that there was a good chance they'd miss the playoffs this year anyways. Now, if there's a team I'd love to see jump in, it would be Columbus. I'd love to see Columbus jump either, into a wild card spot or into one of the top 3 spots. Actually, to be honest, it would be great if Columbus had home ice advantage in the first round and was second place. And I say that because I don't think Columbus has ever had home ice advantage in a series. I'm pretty sure that's never been a thing. In all my years of looking at things revolving Columbus, they've never had home ice advantage in a series. So that'd be nice. Be nice to see that for a change, and I think there's a chance because they're only 2 points back of both Pittsburgh and the Islanders, who have not been juggernauts, right? So there is that chance for Columbus. They need to not stumble, though, like they did last night against Florida. They need to not have those stumbles. But either way, let me know which team you think could drop out and which team could jump up and get a playoff spot. I'm not discounting Ottawa either, but Ottawa's got to have I've seen the comments about Allmark and the goaltending. I don't know how much of this is goaltending that necessarily has sunk their season. I think there are a couple of reasons, but I do think goaltending's been a part of it, and that definitely needs to be shored up. And they're going to need to get Allmark playing his best hockey. So I wanted to take a look at the East today, and before anybody says anything, yes, I could talk about the West as well. I don't know that the West's going to have as tough. How do I put this? I think that the bar is a little lower in terms of the teams that are going to make the playoffs in the West when we look at points, when we look at how tough those rosters are necessarily. Like the number 2 wild card in the East will probably be a much stronger team, or at least a stronger team than the number 2 wild card in the West. But then the playoffs start and everything can change. So we'll see how things go. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.